Hello everyone, this is Roxana from Eutopian Lettings, and here we are today back with another video about property management. In today's video we are going to discuss about tenant fees and the Tenancy Act from 2019. I'm going to explain what it means and which fees you are allowed to charge from the tenants and which fees you are not allowed to charge from tenants. Okay, so let's get started. I'm gonna start with the good news, okay? So here is the list of permitted fees. You are allowed to charge the tenant a refundable holding deposit, but that has to be up to 1 week's rent per property, which means you can't charge more than that. You can charge a tenancy deposit, but even here there are some things that apply. You are not allowed to charge more than 6 weeks worth of rent if the annual amount you're getting from that property is over £50,000. You can also charge any change to the tenancy. For example, if the tenant decides to bring on a pet, or if they ask you for permission to run a business from the property, or any other amends that actually change the contract that you have initially signed. There is a cap of £50 per change, unless you can prove that the changes affect you and cost you more than that. You are allowed to charge for the utility and other bills like the electric, gas, water, council tax, TV license, internet, and any other things that the tenant is using. But there is something else. You are not allowed to force the tenant to get the internet, for example. If you had a contract on your internet, you're not allowed to obligate them to continue with your contract. So maybe they think that your £60 Virgin contract might be too expensive for them, so you're not allowed to charge them that, but only the mandatory one. So basically the council tax, for example, if it says in your agreement that it's their responsibility to pay it, then they should pay for that and you're allowed to charge them. You are also allowed to charge for any fees for early termination of the tenancy, but you have to be able to show reasonable loss that you have suffered as a consequence for the early termination. For example, the fact that you have to pay for advertising again, and you are allowed to charge rent from them until the next tenant moves in. So if they were supposed to give you 2 months notice, but they move out after 1 month, they still have to pay for the second month, unless you find a tenant to take over the property. Okay, you are also allowed to charge them any default fees which should be written in the tenancy agreement, like rent paid late. So if they are 14 days late with the rent, you are allowed to charge an interest of maximum 3%. And one last thing you're allowed to charge for is replacing the lock and security fobs, but also there's a cap for that. So the government states that the new standard door keys should be valued between £3 and £10, and if you have a special lock, you can't charge them more than £20 for lock, and if you need to change the key fob, you can charge up to £50. If you can prove that you've lost more than £50 and you have evidence for that, then you might be able to charge more than that. Okay, so now let's go to the bad news. What are you not allowed to charge for? So here is a list. You are not allowed to charge for property viewings. So if you're paying someone to do the viewings, not allowed to charge the tenant. You are not allowed to charge for the referencing, administration charges like the management fees. You're not allowed to charge for checking the references of a guarantor, for the inventory of the property. both check-in and check-out have to be paid by the landlord. You are not allowed to charge for the right to rent checks, so the landlord is liable for this unless the tenant fails the check. Pet fees and pet deposits, you're not allowed to charge those unless they acquire a pet during your tenancy and they ask you to change the agreement. No renewable fees, no interest on permitted payments, and you are not allowed to charge them for professional end of tenancy cleaning unless they are in the breach of contract. And as I mentioned before with the internet, you're not allowed to charge them any third-party fees. So any contracts that you have, for example, the TV license that you've already paid for, or the internet, or any other fees that you have for the specific property, like what else is the service charge of the property, or any other third-party fees. And one last thing you're not allowed to charge for is the gardening services, unless you include that within the rent price. So basically, you have to charge more rent and pay for the gardening services from the rental amount. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for sticking till the end. If you subscribe, I will see you in the next video where I will give you more information about how to rent a property in the UK.